Two mechanics look under the same Toyota. They see the same oil-soaked lower engine. One of them hands you a $1 part and sends you home in 10 minutes. The other hands you a three-page estimate, keeps your car for 2 days, and walks away with over $1,000 of your money. Same car, same leak, same drop of oil. And in a moment, I am going to show you exactly why this happens, who benefits from it, and how you can make sure you are never the person paying the four-digit bill again. If you own a Toyota Corolla, a Camry, a RAV4, or virtually any Toyota vehicle built in the last 25 years, this video was made for you. Because right now, across dealerships and quick lube shops all over this country, there is a diagnostic lie being repeated so many times, so consistently, and with such calm professional confidence that even experienced car owners never question it. They see the terrifying oil wash coating the underside of their engine, and they immediately surrender their wallet. And the mechanics know it. Uh, they have always known it. What I am exposing today is not a theory. It is not speculation. It is a documented, repeatable, completely verifiable mechanical illusion that the service industry has allowed to persist for decades because it feeds an enormously profitable pipeline of misdiagnosed repair work. And the tool they use to keep this illusion alive costs exactly $1. $1. And they have turned it into a $1 billion business by doing nothing more than pretending it does not exist. Stay with me, because what comes next is going to fundamentally change how you look at every oil leak you ever encounter on a Toyota for the rest of your life. Let me take you back to the late 1990s, when Toyota's engineering division in Japan made a decision that was, at its core, beautifully thoughtful and completely correct. Toyota had been building aluminum oil pans for years. Aluminum is lightweight, it dissipates heat efficiently, and it reduces the overall engine weight on smaller displacement motors like the famous 1ZZ and 2ZZ four-cylinder engines that would power millions of Corollas, Celicas, and Matrix models for the next 2 decades. But aluminum has a problem that iron does not. It is soft. And when you repeatedly thread a steel drain bolt into a soft aluminum bung, something inevitable begins to happen. The threads wear, they stretch, they strip. And once the drain plug threads in an aluminum oil pan are compromised, you are no longer looking at a $1 repair. You are looking at a pan replacement, a thread insert, or, in the worst case, an entirely new engine. Toyota's engineers understood this vulnerability, and they designed a solution that was genuinely elegant. Instead of using a reusable rubber gasket or a traditional copper washer, they introduced a single-use crushable aluminum washer, sometimes called a sealing ring or a drain plug gasket, with a specific part number matched to each engine family. The concept was simple and grounded in real physics. When the drain bolt is torqued to the factory specification of 28 foot-pounds, the fresh aluminum washer, which is soft and pliable at that point, deforms slightly under the clamping load. It crushes. It flows. It conforms perfectly to the machine mating surfaces of both the bolt head and the oil pan drain bung, filling every microscopic irregularity in both surfaces and creating a complete, unbroken seal. The oil cannot pass, not a single molecule of it. This system works perfectly, and it has worked perfectly since the day Toyota deployed it. But only if you do one thing. Only if you replace that washer every single time you drain the oil. Here is where the science becomes brutal, and I want you to pay close attention to this because it is the foundation of everything else I am going to show you. An aluminum crush washer is not a gasket you can reuse. The moment it is torqued into place and begins to deform under pressure, the internal structure of the metal changes at a molecular level. The aluminum crystals realign under stress. The material work hardens. The same malleability that made it seal perfectly on the first installation is permanently destroyed by the crushing process. What was once soft and conforming is now rigid and scarred. The sealing face is no longer smooth. It carries microgrooves, stress fractures at the outer deformation edge, and an altered geometry that no longer matches the machine's seat it is supposed to protect. If you reinstall that same washer, you are placing a mechanically compromised, permanently deformed ring back into a sealing application it can never perform again. And yet, this is exactly what happens at quick lube shops hundreds of thousands of times every single day across this country. Stay right there, because what I am about to explain next is the part that mechanics will never walk you through on camera, and it is the reason this entire deception works so beautifully and so invisibly. When a technician at a high-volume oil change chain drains your engine oil, he is working against a timer. The entire business model is built on throughput, on the number of cars that move through the bay per hour. Ordering and stocking the correct crush washer for every Toyota variant in the fleet adds cost, adds inventory complexity, and adds 30 seconds per car. So a very common practice, never advertised, never disclosed on the service receipt, is to simply reinstall the old drain plug with the original washer. Sometimes they apply a small bead of thread sealant. Sometimes they do nothing at all. They torque the bolt back down, they refill the oil, and they send you on your way smiling. For the first few days, nothing happens. The bolt is tight. The old washer is still holding its marginal position. But as your engine goes through heat cycles, as the oil reaches full operating temperature and cools again overnight, as the aluminum components of the engine expand and contract through dozens of thermal episodes, That work-hardened washer begins to lose its marginal grip on the surfaces it was never designed to seal a second time. A microscopic gap opens between the deformed washer face and the machined pan seat. Not a gush, not a sudden flood, just a slow, intermittent weep of pressurized hot oil that begins to migrate past the sealing surface and creep outward along the bolt threads. Now, here is where the mechanical illusion is born, and it is a masterpiece of coincidental physics that no quick lube shop employee ever has to invent or exaggerate. It happens entirely on its own. Your Toyota's oil drain plug sits at the lowest point of the oil pan, toward the rear of the engine. When hot oil seeps past a compromised washer at highway speed, aerodynamic drag takes over immediately. The air moving at 60 miles per hour beneath your vehicle does not allow that oil to simply drop straight to the road. Instead, it strips the oil off the seep point and drives it backward and outward along the flat external surface of the oil pan. The hot oil spreads, it travels. It coats the entire lower surface of the pan in a thin, glistening, terrifying film. By the time you look under the vehicle, either yourself in your driveway or on a lift at the next shop you visit, what you see is not a small seep at a drain plug. What you see is the entire lower block soaked in oil. The pan rails are coated. The corners are coated. Every surface that hot oil could aerodynamically reach during 40 miles of highway driving is now drenched in a dark, alarming film that looks exactly like a catastrophic perimeter gasket failure. And what I am about to show you in the next section is the reason why mechanics refuse to talk about this on camera, because what they see and what they tell you are two completely different things. A mechanic who does not want to find the drain plug looks at that visual presentation and calls it exactly what it looks like: a blown lower pan gasket, a failed perimeter RTV seal. He writes up the subframe drop, the exhaust removal, the multiple labor hours, the gasket kits, the shop supplies. And the number on that paper is never below $700. Often it reaches $1,200 or more. He shows you photographs on his phone of the oil-soaked pan. He uses serious language. He tells you the engine is hemorrhaging oil and that you were lucky to make it in. And everything he says sounds credible, because everything he is describing visually is real. The pan is soaked, the oil is there. He just never told you where it came from. The tragedy is not that the mechanic is wrong about the visual. The tragedy is that he is wrong about the source. And identifying the actual source takes exactly 30 seconds with a clean paper towel and a flashlight pointed at the drain plug. Internal powertrain documentation and the accumulated knowledge of every honest, independent Toyota technician who ever worked on these engines confirms the same pattern. When you see a lower engine oil soak on a Toyota 4 or 6 cylinder, the first and often only place to investigate before authorizing any gasket repair is the drain plug. You clean the pan completely, you drive the vehicle for a single heat cycle at highway speed, and you return to the shop to inspect. In the vast majority of these cases, the oil is weeping from one place and one place only: the drain bolt. The pan gasket is completely, perfectly intact. You could replace that entire RTV perimeter seal, and the oil would return within a week because you never addressed the source. And here is the number that should make you genuinely angry. The correct replacement part, Toyota's own crush washer, which fits the vast majority of 4 and 6 cylinder Toyota and Lexus applications, costs between 60 cents and $1.20 at any Toyota dealer parts counter. You can purchase a pack of 10 on any automotive parts website for under $8. The part is not obscure. It is not on back order. It is not specialized equipment. It is a 60-cent stamped aluminum ring that Toyota designed specifically to protect you from overpaying, and the service industry quietly turned it into a recurring source of phantom diagnostic revenue by simply never using it. Now let me walk you through exactly what to do, step by step, so that you never pay more than $1 for this repair again. First, safely lift the front of the vehicle using a hydraulic floor jack at the front crossmember or the designated lift points in your owner's manual, and support the car on properly rated jack stands before placing any part of your body beneath it. This step is never optional. A floor jack alone is not a safe working support. Once the vehicle is safely on stands, slide underneath and locate the oil drain plug. On the Corolla and Matrix with the 1ZZ or 2ZZ 4-cylinder, it sits at the rear of the pan, slightly offset toward the passenger side. On the Camry with the 2AZ engine, it is at the rear center of the pan. On the RAV4 with the 2GR or 2AR engine, you will find it at the rear of the pan toward the driver's side. In every case, it is the single bolt at the lowest accessible point of the pan, and it takes a 14mm socket. Place your oil catch pan directly beneath the bolt. Break the plug loose with a short extension and your 14mm socket, turning counterclockwise. As the bolt reaches its last few threads, slow down and control it with your fingers. The oil will drain immediately once the bolt clears the bung. Let it drain completely, which usually takes 5 to 8 minutes for a full drain on a 4-cylinder Toyota. Now examine the bolt you removed. Look at the washer on it. If that washer is uniformly flat, shiny on the sealing face, shows any deformation at the outer compression edge, or feels rigid and stiff between your fingers, it has already been crushed and it cannot seal again. Discard it. Do not put it back on the bolt under any circumstances, regardless of how intact it looks. Take your new Toyota crush washer and examine it before installation. A fresh, uncompressed washer has a slight dome or cup to one face. That concave face, the cup side, is oriented toward the oil pan surface when you install it. The flat face contacts the underside of the bolt head. Slide the new washer onto the drain bolt with the cupped face pointing toward the pan. Thread the bolt in by hand until it contacts the washer snugly, and then torque it to exactly 28 foot-pounds using a calibrated torque wrench. Not 30, not 40, 28 foot-pounds. Precisely. Overtorquing crushes the washer beyond its designed deformation range and can damage the soft aluminum thread insert in the oil pan, which is the exact failure mode Toyota engineered the crush washer to prevent in the first place. That is the entire repair. Refill the engine with the correct grade and quantity of oil for your specific vehicle. For most four-cylinder Toyotas built after 2005, that is 4 to 4.5 quarts of 0W20 or 5W30, depending on the model year and climate. Check your oil cap or owner's manual for confirmation. Start the engine, let it run for 2 minutes at idle, and inspect the drain plug area with a clean white paper towel and a flashlight. Completely dry, every time. The oil film that built up on your pan over the previous thousands of miles will not disappear instantly. You can wipe the pan clean with a degreaser before the test drive to make your inspection clean and definitive. But the seep itself, the source of that entire terrifying visual presentation that a shop was prepared to charge you $1,000 to misdiagnose, is completely and permanently gone for the cost of $1.10 of your time. I want you to sit with that for a moment. $1, 10 minutes. In a repair that the service industry was prepared to bill you $1,200 to perform incorrectly on a gasket that was never failing in the first place. This is not an isolated mistake. Mistakes are random. They go both ways, and sometimes they favor the customer. End of quote. What I am describing is a directional failure that consistently and reliably resolves in the shop's maximum revenue favor. When the wrong diagnosis always generates the highest labor ticket, that is not an accident of incompetence. That is a structural incentive operating exactly as designed. Share this video right now. Not for me. Share it as a direct act of protection for every Toyota owner in your circle who does not know this exists. Post it in every automotive community you belong to. Because the only thing standing between your neighbor and a $1,000 phantom repair is 30 seconds of correct diagnostic thinking and the knowledge that the first question to ask before authorizing any oil pan reseal on a Toyota is this: has anyone actually cleaned this pan completely and confirmed with certainty that the oil is not originating from the drain plug washer? If the shop cannot answer that question with confidence, you already have your answer. And stay close, because the next video I am releasing is going to expose something far more deliberate than a reused washer. I have been sitting on documentation from inside a major American automaker showing that engineers flagged a cooling system component as critically underspecified in writing were overruled by a cost reduction directive, and the resulting mass-scale failure generated hundreds of millions of dollars in out-of-warranty repair revenue across a single model line. I have the internal timeline. I have the parts specification comparison. And when you see how clearly the failure was predicted and how deliberately the cheaper spec was approved anyway, it will change the way you think about every maintenance interval you have ever trusted a manufacturer to set. Honestly, do not miss it.